I just had like 4 emotional breakdowns followed by 4 like picking myself back up and, you know, using some men's therapy, and then, you know, kind of reminding myself that like, hey, you know, I'm pretty cool sometimes. What's up? It's me, your favorite internet roommate. It's interesting. I hold Pokemon in a really special place. It's kind of like one of the gatekeepers of my nostalgia. But yet lately, I've been consistently disappointed by the series. I was looking at my content on Pokemon and I realized, oh man, I've only like talked negative about it. But yet I continue to buy these games and even now feel the need to make a positive video on it. It's almost like I can't give you up. So today, we're making a positive Pokemon video because despite everything, one of my favorite pastimes gotta be playing Pokemon for my job. Yo, this shit is sick. I'm going to work. Point is, it's time for me to say some good things about this series, and what better way to do that than talking about the thing that I love most about video games. Some people like to hold up eternally while eating popcorn in the other hand while they play a game. Some people like to click the just the story option in a game. And some people aren't game journalists. Some people try to find the best way to completely break a game so they can beat it in 0.2 seconds. Some people like games that'll rearrange their bowels with how difficult they are. What? But for me, what I love most about games is that vibe. That's right, y'all, I'm cornering the Pitstop market. Today, I'm Internet Pokestop. And we are once again obsessing over nerdy little details of games and conflating them to be more important than they actually are. We're talking Pokemon atmosphere. Atmosphere in the context of gaming is the usage of music, aesthetic, sound design, dialogue, really anything that can invoke a feeling. It's what to me makes games go from I'm playing this game to I'm in the game. You know what I'm saying? I'm chilling in that spa next to some grannies. I'm knee deep in snow. I'm joyfully strolling through this unassuming little beach town and going into this totally not inconspicuous house. That's no way there's gonna be a chant. Oh, I'm joking. You get it. Atmosphere is what makes games feel immersive. So today we're gonna go through gens 1 through 5, aka the good ones. I said the thing. I said it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Old Pokemon good, new Pokemon bad. Yep, we're gonna go through each of them and talk about some of my favorite vibes from their towns and routes. Of course, I'm not gonna name them all, so feel free to comment down your favorite atmospheric places in each region. But even on this Latios, it's gonna be hard to travel from one region to a whole other region, you know what I mean? Like, what would I do if I wanted a Pokemon from Hoenn, but I'm in Johto, which is why I use the power of Nordvpn. By simply clicking a button, I can change my location from Johto all the way to Hoenn. But you see, I eternally live here in this green screen. But for you, as an example, you can change your location from the US to the UK. Now at least your IP is safe from hackers and malware. And maybe you could even cast a Leviosa or something. I don't know what UK people do on the off time. But also now you can watch shows and films on your streaming platforms that are from that different location you might have picked, and you can copy their British accents really badly. Nord's ultimate goal is to make the internet a better place, protecting your online data from any threats. If you're ever downloading a file, it'll stop any malware coming in with its Threat Protection Pro, and it has an ad blocker. So if you've ever thought about getting a VPN to protect your info and also let you hop from region to region, this is the best time to do it, because with my link in the description and pinned comment, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. And honestly, it is just a great way to also support your boy if you mess with me. Once again, if any of that sounds appealing to you, description and pinned comment right there for you. Thank you, NordVPN, and back to the video. Now, admittedly, in my opinion, Kanto is probably the least atmospheric region that we're going to talk about today. Don't get me wrong, it's got it, but just not as much as the others, you know? A lot of the towns and routes in this region just kind of give a very similar-ish vibe, except for the few standouts that we're going to talk about. It's kind of hard to talk about the general vibe of Kanto without talking about the nostalgia that comes with it. I mean, these games have been remade time and time again. Almost every generation has some nostalgia for Kanto. Like, I might not know my way around my home city despite, you know, living there like my whole life or some shit. I don't know. But I do know that Saffron City is the center here, which links to Cerulean up here, Celadon over here, Lavender to the right, and Vermilion towards the bottom. And Vermilion can link all the way to Fuchsia City, and if you go from Fuchsia City, taking the water down, you'll end up in Cinnabar Island, which Cinnabar Island links all the way back to where your journey started at Pallet Town. Unlike real life, I don't need Apple Maps to tell me that. Priorities. One of my favorite things about the atmosphere of Kanto itself is this feeling of a, like, hidden history, a myths and like legends, or just like mysteries. Like, you know something definitely happened, you're just not getting the full story. You get little tidbits. Like when you talk to Surge and he mentions this Pokemon War, you know, and then your mind starts racing and you go to theories and such. Or to use an area as an example, you have the Pokemon Mansion. The vibe of this place is super mysterious, super creepy and eerie. The music that slowly builds up and sounds almost digital. And if you're like me and got stuck here for a while, the music, like, low-key kind of starts to drive you kind of mad. And I love how even the mechanics of the place add to the atmosphere. For example, these switches, they add to the, like, ooh, this is spooky vibe, because when you click them, they ask you, press the mysterious switch? And then when you click it, it's like, who wouldn't? It's like the game is your older brother who made you pee your pants out of fear, and now he's gonna make you shit them too. But the best part of the atmosphere of the mansion is reading the journal entries of the scientists. Just getting these little scraps of lore, unraveling the mystery, and learning about this Pokemon Mewtwo. Diary, July 5th. We discovered a new Pokemon deep in the jungle. Diary, September 1st. Mewtwo is far too powerful. We have failed to curb his vicious tendencies. Like, ooh, that got my little 7-year-old mind racing. I love when media that is predominantly for children is just like, hey, let's traumatize these kids, bruh. Kanto, in my opinion, did this creepy, mysterious atmosphere better than any other region. Don't get me wrong, there's some creepy shit in future games, but nothing to the level of Kanto's creepy factor. Especially when we're talking about what is probably the most atmospheric, creepy town in all of Pokemon. Everyone knows we gotta talk about Lavender Town. There's a reason so many conspiracy theories and creepypastas derive from this one little town. The atmosphere here is thick. It's this solemn, quiet town full of remorseful people just aching the loss of their Pokemon that have passed. There's talks of ghost sightings. There's that one NPC that asks you if there's a white hand on your shoulder. And I think the vibe is at its best in, I believe, Pokemon Yellow, which is the one where, like, the whole color palette of the town is drowned in purple. It makes it so when you step into the town, there's this immediate sense of like, ooh, spooky, you know, your knees are shaken, your teeth are clenched, your butthole is puckered. And then when you go to the Pokemon Tower with all the gravestones and the fog in the air, and then once again, everybody you talk to there is either very spiritual or just like mourning their lost Pokemon. That is atmosphere. It's the combination of the music, the aesthetic, and the flavor text, all there to culminate a vibe, a sense of place. Now, for me, that's where my passion stops for the atmosphere of Kanto. I never want to try to like speak about something I'm not passionate about, but hey, if you have other towns in Kanto that you feel are very atmospheric and give you this sense of feelings and vibes, please feel free to comment and let me know what you think. I absolutely love the vibe of Johto. It's amazing to me just how much of a step up it is over Kanto in terms of creating this sense of place and creating an atmosphere. To me, when I think of Johto, I think of autumn. I think of oranges and reds and aged yellows. The air is probably like really sweet. If Johto had like a taste, it would be like honey and green tea. I get the vibe that it's usually sunny, but maybe just with like always a nice cool breeze. And the big vibe I get from Johto is this feeling of history, a respect for tradition and the past. It's also very like Eastern influence. And as a very clear, honorable weeb, who is also a samurai, you know, Garugamesh, Susibaka, Niho Jozu, all that. In my astute and very credible opinion, I very much approve. But this feeling of history is felt all throughout Johto. It's genuinely what I love most about the atmosphere. I just love going to each town and learning and understanding why it looks the way it does because of its history and learning about that history. The first real town you go to is Violet City, and already it has so much more of a vibe and sense of place than most of the towns in Kanto. The music is joyful and there's a traditional sound to the instrumentation. Hearing the little chimes in the backgrounds is so nostalgic to me, which makes sense as it's the town of nostalgic sense. It's clearly the vibe they're trying to give off, which is why NPC literally tells you that the roofs are colored a darker shade to invoke that feeling of the past. But of course, the real sense of history comes from the Bellsprout Tower. I love how when you walk in here, that traditional music just kind of hazily kind of fades in and the bass drops and now you're just jamming to these traditional ass instruments. And going back to how even little things can add to a sense of atmosphere, if you listen closely, you can even hear the creaking of the wooden pillar in the middle. And then you get to learn why the tower is built like this and the history behind it. For one, it was made this way to protect the tall tower from earthquakes. And the legend of the tower comes from apparently there was a 100-foot tall Bellsprout, and that Bellsprout made the tower or something? And actually, we don't even have to go too far of a walk to reach our next very atmospheric town in Azalea Town. It's this little homey town that genuinely feels like a real community. It's known as a town where people and Pokemon live together in harmony, which just by looking around, you can visually see that. The people here live with nature, using its resources sparingly to run their businesses. For example, using the lumber of the nearby Ilex forest to create the apricot Pokeballs. And again, going back to living in harmony with Pokemon, they actually have Farfetch'd help them do this, and you can even see them in the town. But even though they use resources from the nature, all of the town's people deeply respect the Ilex forest, praying to its shrine and its forest protector. I just love the vibes here. I can almost smell the smoke of, you know, the wood burning. It reminds me of a town that like a shonen protagonist would grow up in. And the music is oh my god. The melody is so relaxing, but there's this kind brightness to it. And to go back to that feeling of history, there's this cool lore about how Slowpoke's yawn could summon a rainstorm and thus the reason for this well. And apparently 400 years before, a Slowpoke's yawn is what actually ended a drought. And since then, Slowpokes have become a part of Azalea's culture. Which is why, much like the Farfetch, you can see the Slowpoke all around town. Pretty much all throughout this region, you get this constant linking back to history and tradition. In Olivine, there's the lighthouse, which for years has had this Ampharos that has become a beacon of light for people sailing into Olivine City. The Cianwood Pharmacy carries on a tradition of 500 years of medicine history. The Dragon Den is another historic ancient relic. The old ruins of Elf, I could go on all day. And you can even get meta with it considering the post-game of Johto is going to Kanto, which also connects to history and tradition because that's the prior region, which Kanto in Johto alone has its own little weird atmosphere. There's like this existential dread when you're in Kanto in these games. It's aimless, it's empty, and it's sad out here. The Safari Zone is closed, Cinnabar Island is like destroyed, and then you meet Blue there and he's saying some nihilistic shit. But weirdly enough, that vibe of like emptiness and dread actually builds up really well to the ending of coming face to face with, again, going back to history, the protagonist of the last game, Red. All that feeling of like emptiness and aimlessness in Kanto really accentuates this moment of being on Mount Silver. The vibe of Mount Silver. It's cold, the music cuts out, and all you hear is this lonely, empty wind. Red has no words to say. You just lock eyes with him, and the battle starts. Now, did they intend for this feeling of like empty loneliness, aimlessness in all of Kanto to build up to this moment? Or was it just kind of a product of like, you know, adding Kanto kind of last minute so they couldn't do too much with it? I don't know. But regardless, I feel it. Or to put it more analytically and poetically, I thinked it. Or what is probably the most atmospheric town in this entire region, you know we have to talk about Ecruteak City. Everything I've said about Johto up until this point, the feeling of history, tradition, the Eastern influence, the colors of like oranges, reddish, and yellows, all of that is condensed and like multiplied by 10 here. To me, if we lived in Johto and you were that kid that lived in Ecruteak, you were like the coolest kid. It's like being the fastest kid in school, you know what I mean? Ecruteak has this mythical, spiritual vibe and air to it. The music is once again very traditional sounding. It's almost this mellow, swaying theme. There's so many cool locations here that add to the vibe of the place. You have the dance studio where I can imagine on like a weekend, you and your friends going to see a show. It's probably a really good time. And to go back to that feeling of history, this town's slogan is a historical city where the past meets the present, which makes perfect sense considering you have the burned tower. It's the sad remains of a once great tower that was set ablaze 150 years before the game. But the people in the town didn't get rid of it or try to rebuild it. They kept it here as a reminder and out of respect for history. And not too far from that bell tower being a reminder of the past, you have the present of this beautiful new bell tower. This place feels so sacred and important, and if we're talking just vibes, the whole moment of like being up here with the dancers and then Ho-Oh coming, it's amazing. And funny enough, actually one of the most atmospheric places to me in the whole game is actually right outside this bell tower. This area has always been stained forever in my brain. It's one of those places in like a video game where like you're not needed to stay here for a long time, but you know, I'm gonna, just cause the vibe. It's similar to that feeling in Ocarina of Time when you go into the Temple of Time and you don't have to walk, but you feel the need to. Just because the vibe like insinuates that. You have those beautiful yellow and orangish leaves just littering the ground, the beautiful trees surrounding the place. And the choice of having no music was so necessary for this place. It allows you to just take in this moment and just breathe it all in. Being here, it feels spiritual, it feels transitional, like it's the entrance or doorway to another dimension entirely. Overall, to me, Ecruteak is probably the most atmospheric town in the entire series. There's a reason that Alola has a whole town that tries to pay tribute to it, and it looks like it, but it don't got that vibe, you know what I mean? It don't got the history, it don't hit the same. Or once again, in much more poetic words, you can steal my swag, but you will never replicate my lore. And I thought about ending Johto right there at Ecruteak because it's kind of the peak of the region's vibes. But one place that's atmosphere has always really captured me personally has to be National Park. The lush green grass, the colorful flowers, the water fountain. It's this place of tranquility and relaxation. The music gives this feeling of innocence and curiosity. It's a very simple tune, but I can't help but get this feeling of like sadness, melancholy, something along those lines. It provides that type of sound that just gives you a sad nostalgia. It's like when you hear that one bird in the morning and suddenly you're like warped back to a specific time in your life. The music warps you back to a past time. And if you take into context your journey up until this point, you've beaten 3 gyms, so you're kind of far from home at this point, but you're not that far, so you still got some ways to go. There's simultaneously this connection to the past because of how far you come, but still the future because you still got ways to go, which also kind of works in terms of like the way it's set up, because the national park is like actually connected to, you know, your first town. So you want to sit here, you want to take in how far you come and how much you've achieved. You left home, you got your first Pokemon, you beat 2 gyms, you beat that fucking Miltank. But when the music swells up, it's almost like it's telling you like, hey, you still got ways to go. Don't stay here too long. It's okay to reminisce about the past, about good times, but time and life keeps moving on. And if you're just here staring too long, you're gonna miss out. So take that second to really just smell those flowers and enjoy how far you've come and appreciate the nostalgia. But then use those cherished memories as motivation to make more cherished memories in the present, so that you can again in the future look back at your past life and say, damn, those were good times. You've come far, but the adventure isn't over yet. Keep moving forward. I'm sorry, right now on my earphones is playing the like Naruto silhouette opening, and it's like right when the beat dropped, so like I just felt like a shonen protagonist giving you a speech. Anyway, speaking of moving forward, that's exactly what we're gonna do now as we move on to our next region.
Who's that Pokémon?
Hoenn is probably my favorite region in pretty much every aspect. And there's a lot of like very chill, vibey, atmospheric spots. I'm gonna try my best to not, you know, just talk about every single place. Hoenn is loud, it's bright, it's bold. It's also probably the warmest region, and most likely the air smells really fresh. I just feel that. If Hoenn was a food, it probably tastes, I don't know, like tropical or something. And the big appeal to Hoenn's vibe is that it's easily the most diverse, creative, and region with variety. So let's just lightning round some like really cool vibes you can get all over this region. Hazy, dry deserts. I'm from Arizona, so this is like a typical Tuesday for me. Overgrown, rainy, grassy rainforest. Wait, that's the same thing. Rainforest routes with really long grass. Snowy, steaming, volcanic mountains. Relaxing hot springs. What's up? Relaxing, sunny beachsides. Underwater sunken ships. Or one of my favorite spots, this route. You got these really unique looking trees in the background, and it's snowing, but it's not snow, it's volcanic ash, and it's literally blanketing all of the grassy patches. It's such a vibe. I love it here. Or even just the mechanic of the secret bases. I love the feeling of like being somewhere like secret and safe. Like you get this feeling of like security, especially if like you're somewhere like locked away and like hidden, and like outside is like dangerous. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but it's like a feeling that I know I like. Point is, I love the comfy vibes of having a secret base. Genuinely one of the coolest ideas for a game mechanic. This should have been a recurring thing in every region. But let's actually talk about some of the vibes of the actual towns. Verdant Turf, while being a super low-key town in the region, has always like connected with me. First off, that theme music, it sounds wistful, whimsical, cozy. It's such a relaxing piece of music that beautifully adds to the atmosphere of town. The vibe of Verdant Turf just gives you this feeling of like, it's almost like you know the air is like, it's tasty, you know what I mean? And it probably has a constant smell of grass. It's just this little windswept grassy town that I adore so much. And this atmosphere makes sense, especially when you find out the lore that because of the way that Verdant Turf is positioned, the air is much cleaner here than really anywhere else. Which is why Wally, a very sickly boy, lives here, because the air is cleaner and healthier. And ultimately why I love and connect to Verdant Turf so much. So my family's from Bosnia, and whenever my brother would be playing a video game, especially Zelda games, there were always these like towns and locations that felt very Bosnia coded, and that's why I love Verdant Turf so much, because it gives me that same feeling. So I gotta give it the Bosnia stamp of approval. The next town I gotta talk about for vibes is Pacific Log Town. In a region full of cool, creative-ass ideas, this is like probably one of the best ones. A whole ass town on reefs. Houses just chilling on logs and rafts floating on top of a Corsola colony. And then there's this whole legend about how the people who used to live here lived on boats, and they even like despawned on their boats, but they like spent their whole life searching for some legend or something. And thus now the town, hearing this story, growing up with it, is full of people who believe in all these myths and legends. It's just a cool little town full of like little conspiracy theorists. Oh, actually, that's probably not a really good thing. But in this fantasy world, it does help with the atmosphere and immersion. It makes it feel more real. And I think about Hoenn as a region, there's like this constant theme of like people and nature living together in harmony, right? And this town is a shining example of that. It's the people living with nature. The people are literally living on these rafts on the water, not disturbing anything. But if I'm being honest, while I love the vibes here in Pacific Log, probably wouldn't live here, not somewhere I want to live, considering one decent-sized wave and it's over for us. But if there is one town that I would most definitely live in, it's gotta be Fortree City. Once again, those themes of living within nature and Pokemon, it's literally a town of tree houses. They live in the trees. It feels like it came from a children's book. I love this vibe. It's so imaginative and downright just cool. And I love how when you talk to the people, they're so content with everything, like how because they live in the trees, Pokemon will at times literally just fly through their windows like big ass bugs, and they're just like, hey, that's the life. That's what happens when you live with nature, you know? Again, little world building tidbits like that just adds to the atmosphere because it makes the place feel more real and adds to the immersion. But I feel like I'm saying the same thing at this point. I'm out of words. It's cool. It makes it feel more than just a town in a game. It makes it feel like it's a real little community in treehouse. It's tough with Hoenn. There's so many great vibes and atmospheres, so I'm gonna have to leave it off here, but please comment down locations in Hoenn that you love the atmosphere of. Let's move on to Sinnoh. I changed my pants to these more like rougher brown pants than the other ones. These are more like jeans. They're also a little more flared than the other ones. Let me know what y'all think. Comment down, were pants A earlier in the video better with this fit, or pants B?
Pokemon is probably the gatekeeper of that little fuzzy nostalgic feeling we all get in our butts when we're reminded of our childhood.
Sinnoh is the furthest north and the coldest region of them all, which is why even in the beginning town you see little hints of snow on the ground. And I'm a big fan of this. I love seeing it all over the pine trees, and I love how even the characters, like main model, they wear scarves because it's a colder region. Things like that already are adding to the atmosphere of Sinnoh itself because it gives you the idea of like what kind of weather or kind of climate, you know? And being me, I associate cold weather with like holidays and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that Sinnoh air probably smells like, I don't know, like hot cocoa or something. Why did I start doing this? In kind of a contrast to Hoenn, which is bright and loud, Sinnoh is quiet, it's understated, it's contemplative. Its beauty is more serene. I think one of the clear examples of that is the lakes, especially when you hear that theme, which is like one of the best themes in like the entire series. Oh my god. And when it comes to towns that give off a certain vibe, I think everyone knows where I gotta start. Floaroma City, man. It's such a testament to this place's vibe that so many people remember and love this location and resonate with it, despite it being a very, understated town in this region. There's no gym here, there's nothing really important going on. It's just a town you kind of pass by as you're going through your journey, and maybe you do like a little side event. Just a few houses, a mart in a center, a flower shop, and vibes. But everyone wants to live here, you know? Here's my living in Floaroma Town schedule. Check it out. I wake up laying near the beautiful colored flowers. Because I don't have a home, there's only two. I take a good whiff of the flowers. while cuffing my pants 65 times and listening to Flower Boy by Tyler, the Creator. And after doing that for about 5 to 6 hours, I take a small break to buy some flowers at the flower shop. Then I plant those flowers so that there's more flowers to smell the next morning. I go to sleep and I repeat the cycle. Point is, the vibe of Floroma Town is so relaxing. That's how I imagine the people who live there live their daily lives. The music adds so much to it because it's probably one of the most tranquil themes in the whole series. Starting with that sound of the plucking strings, almost feeling like they're plucking at your literal heartstrings. And then when the melody comes in and it's just soothing you into this feeling of rest. And once you found out the lore, it only adds to the vibe, considering that before this town it couldn't grow any flowers until someone made a prayer of gratitude to Shaman, and they granted their wish. Shaman allowed Floroma to bloom, and later on, if you actually find Shaman, you'll find him in a similar location to Floroma. Again, it's just a beautiful, serene, understated town that adds to the vibe of Sinnoh being a more low-key kind of region. And that low-key but serene and beautiful vibe only continues on with our next location. Eterna Forest is easily one of the most atmospheric locations in the entire series. It literally doesn't even feel like a forest. It feels like this little pocket dimension. The way the music fades in and out and then drops all together, it just adds to the vibe. I love the way that the trees heavily shade the area, giving it this sense of like claustrophobia, but in like a good way. I don't know the word for it, but it makes me feel comfy. It's like the trees are canopying the forest, but not too much because you can still see light peering through the opening of the trees. Much like that bell tower entrance in Johto, this place just feels transitional. It feels transient and magical. And it feels ancient, like it's from a long past. And that feeling of an old past is only helped when you find the old chateau, which is just this spooky, wonderful addition to this forest. It fits right in. With this involved in the forest, it gives me this like Zelda vibe. You guys ever like when you're just like done playing a game, like you're probably not gonna touch this copy of this game for like a long time, you like leave your character in a specific place because in your head narratively that's where his journey is. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, this is where I would leave my dude, just in Eterna Forest, probably just laying on the grass for the rest of his days. And I feel we can't talk the vibes and atmosphere of Sinnoh without talking about one of the coolest places in probably the entire series, the Distortion World. Just listen to that theme alone. It's ominous, but it's not like you're in any immediate danger, you know? It almost puts you in a like eerie, creepy trance with how chill it is. And that very first like descending and like intimidating sound, it legit sounds like someone casted a spell on you and now you're like slowly going mad, falling into this trance of chill madness. Again, to go back to Zelda, it sounds like something I'd hear on like Majora's Mask. And that music perfectly fits the vibe and atmosphere of the Distortion World. This place is ominous, it's eerie, it's lonely, it's desolate, but yet it's strangely peaceful. It's like time is just standing still and you can just sit and ponder here. There's no rules here, you just kinda exist. It's honestly strange how I can just envision myself popping a squad and having a little picnic in the literal like underworld of Pokemon. Just enjoy your time. Don't mind the, like literal representation of like the devil in Pokemon world just kind of flying around. It's cool. Which I will say is a great touch to add to the unsettling vibes of here as you're exploring this place. Just seeing Giratina just whoosh around. And kind of going back to that feeling of no rules is that there's no gravity here, which I just point out because I think is cool, like floating everywhere. And I remember always seeing the commercial of them showing like how your character would like walk on the side paths or he'd go on the waterfall but upside down, and I was like, what? Anyway, I love it here. Leave it to Pokemon to make the Void the chillest place in the whole series. And I think to kind of stick to Sinnoh's feeling of low-keyness, serene beauty, understated beauty, I want to talk about another low-key kind of area. That's, to me, perfectly encapsulates the vibe of Sinnoh. Snow Point City. I think everyone loves a good snow area in a video game. And of course, with this being one of, if not the coldest region, it makes perfect sense to have one. I love the vibe of even getting here. Like walking through the blizzard, the snow is literally piling you down so you can't walk normally, which does slow the slow-ass engines of these games down to a fucking crawl, and, you know, the gameplay isn't that great. But the immersion! And then once you make it through that long trek and you get to this beautiful, serene city, you just take it all in. Again, Snow Point is very low-key, very relaxing, and the music only adds to that. It's a very calm theme that has a very winter-esque feel to it, but I can't help but feel this mysteriousness to the tune. It kind of adds to the reason why you want to keep listening. And just those little disparate notes hitting throughout the song, almost sounding like, you know, like the sound of a snowflake hitting the ground. Anytime I get to the city, I always take a good moment to just take in this winter wonderland, where the houses and trees are all blanketed in thick snow. Towns like this, Eterna Forest and Floroma Town, are what make Sinnoh's atmosphere so unique and strong. They don't try too hard to stand out. They're low-key, but yet they enrapture you in a location that doesn't even feel that important. And while I love it here, it is time to move on to the final region. The first thing I want to talk about with Unova is the seasons changing mechanic. This season changing mechanic makes it so pretty much every route and every town has distinctly 4 different vibes. Spring is my favorite in these games because you get this bright green, everything's kind of vibrant, but on top of that, you get these pink cherry blossom petals flowing through the air. Oh, summer is obviously more sunny. It's where you get the most greenest greens, and all the plants are all lush, and at times you'll see little yellow flower petals in the air. Autumn has a color palette of calm oranges, reds, and moody yellows, which you get to see, again, flowing through the wind. Meanwhile, winter mostly consists of dead, muted colors because, you know, the trees have died and whatnot. But obviously now we have snow and hail too. To me, where the seasons changing really shines the most is in Icarus City. During the winter, you'll find it blanketed completely in snow, and there'll be a huge, like, frozen lake in the middle of the town, which you can even have your character ice skate on. But then on other seasons, the ice will melt. You'll have this giant water puddle that reflects the windmill as it turns. It's beautiful. There's a lot of great vibes to be found in Unova, but one of the first ones that stand out to me gotta be Nocturne City. Nocturne City is this rustic, kind of older feeling town. It seems that over a century ago, it used to be a kind of a train depot, and why right outside you can find these older train tracks that have like flowers and grass kind of growing through them. I love this little spot. Just want to point that out. But in recent times, the people have repurposed these warehouses and instead turned them into little art studios or a cafe or just houses. There's all kinds of cool stuff here. There's this feeling of history. There's the museum, which also operates as a library and a gym. So it's all here. It's no wonder it's called the City of Art. And the music adds to that vibe. It gives you this feeling of like an old town. And that older town feel of the music is only improved when you talk to the accordion dude at the cafe and he adds the accordion to the coolest thing about Unova is how many contrasting vibes you can get. So we can go from a quaint, older feeling town to the best big city in all of the series. Sure, there are other cities in Pokemon that are bigger and maybe have more stuff than Castelia, but nothing feels quite as much as a big city living as Castelia does. The feel of it is just unmatched. It's not just these big buildings with nothing going on. It feels alive. It feels like it's a living and breathing. One of the ways it does that is by having the streets filled with tons of people just rushing to their day jobs or whatever it is they're gonna do today. And they're constantly juking you and each other and saying things all the time. This is a cool little detail that adds to the atmosphere. It allows the city to feel more big big and lively and like there's a lot of shit going on, even if there isn't. It helps Castelia legit feel intimidating to explore. There's also a split between the like business section and the art section. There's even these dancers that you can find just kind of doing their thing around the city. And there's even these little like shadier, darker parts that are kind of hidden away just like a real city. And the music only helps because it feels so joyful to listen to. It feels like you just want to walk like this, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm going through the city. The vibe of the city alone will make you feel like you want to explore every little nook and cranny. Like it'll be the longest time before you actually go to the gym because you have so much you feel like you gotta stop here to check out this place and check out that little corner and check out that little corner. Now, I wasn't gonna talk about Driftvale at all because the vibe of the city itself doesn't really capture me or isn't one of my favorites, but because it's important, I do just want to at least... end the video off, I want to talk about my favorite atmosphere in Unova and probably the whole series. Unova has this thing, kind of like how Sinnoh had its lakes, Unova has bridges. And they're all cool and have their own vibe. I like the one where like, I don't remember the names, but I like the one where like you rock through it and the map kind of like shoots it up here so it looks all like, whoa, it's all big and it's big. It's cool, makes you feel all small in like a big city type beat. I like the one where it's underwater. You can see like the 3D ass Pokemon, like the Mantine just kind of swimming around. I would like, if this was real, I'd spend my whole day here just chilling. But where it all really comes together is of course the village bridge. Just going back to having creative ideas, just having a whole town on a bridge is so cool. And the fact that it came from there being a flood that originally washed away the town when it was down under, so they instead rebuilt their houses on top of the bridge. That's just a great world building thing that makes the place feel more real. But also, something about the idea of like building houses on a bridge in order to be more safe because you're more elevated. Something about that safety of that kind of it adds a comfort to the vibe of the place. But I love everything about this bridge. I love the way it's constructed and how it blends right into the houses. I love these lamps that have this warm lighting at night. I also love the community here in general. Everyone here is so friendly and nice. This whole small little community, it's like they all know each other. They're all probably close friends, and that's why even when you go heal your Pokemon, there's no Pokemon Center. You just get helped by one of the locals. I just assumed that because most of these people probably went through the pretty traumatic thing of having their old homes destroyed by a wave, that it maybe brought them closer, and so now they have this really friendly, like, loving relationship all together. I changed my mind. Yeah, this is where I want to live. This is my home. Whenever I come back to playing these games and I end up here, there almost is this feeling of like homesickness, which is so weird that a video game can fucking do that. But of course, the atmosphere of the village bridge wouldn't be the village bridge without that music. Once again, you can improve this theme song and make it more elevated by the help of the people of the village. You could talk to the guitar guy and just have him add his plucky little strings to the theme. You talk to this dude and he adds a funky little beatbox into it. Then you got the Zelda fan including the grassy flute into the tune. And when you talk to this guy, he And with that, I want to say thank you so much for deciding to light your bonfire here on this little corner of the internet. I love making these atmosphere and X video game videos. I hope to make more of them in the future. I really tried this time to only focus on ones that really affected me, so I wasn't spread out too thin talking about ones that I kind of felt kind of didn't. Just kind of focused on the core ones to me. But what that does, it opens a lot of room for other ones that maybe I missed or didn't talk about as much. And that's where I need you to come in. Comment down below, places in Pokemon Gens 1 through 5 that were super atmospheric to you. And if you're new here and you like what you saw today, I'd really appreciate if you gave me a like and a subscribe. It always helps. Or if you really want to support your boy, the best way you can is on Patreon. You can join as little as 3 beans just if you want to give me some general support, help me keep the lights on and, you know, shit like that. Or if you're an insane person like all these characters you see here, these are part of my highest tier on Patreon. At my highest tier, you get a bunch of benefits, but also get a pixel art character that will be included at the end of all my videos, and sometimes throughout them. You might have saw some today. And we actually have a few new ones that I gotta introduce, so meet these people. First on our list, we got Rin Miso, who actually just brought his Final Fantasy XIV character, and our pixel artist was able to bring him down into some pixels, and I think it came out great. Next up, we have Panseer, who took the Hunter from Rain World, but made them into an Anthro version, just kind of chilling there with the wind kind of blowing by. I fuck with it. They perfectly fit into this little hangout spot. Next up, we got Artificial Ego, who fused the mask salesman from Majora's Mask and a possum. Which, I fuck with this so heavy, it works so well. Shout out to him. Then we got our boy Susanoo, who just legit said, hey, give me Raiho, but like, you know, as a pixel art character. And here it is. I think it came out really clean, looks good. I fuck with it. Once again, if you want one of these characters for yourself and a bunch of other cool shit, feel free to join at the highest tier on my Patreon. I'd really appreciate it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go back to therapy. Thank you so much. With all that being said, thank you so much for coming to this little pit stop on the corner of the internet. Peace.